Today you are going to have to do what you practiced a bit yesterday online, which is really think about how amounts stack up as far as the fraction being closer to a half, a whole amount, or nothing, which of course would be 0. So to start off with, I'm going to have you pull out your 1/2 sheet of paper. And a lot of these answers will be different. That is okay. I want to show you some other options, though, from what I had stopped with yesterday. So 6 different ways to show 1/2 on clocks. You could have shown 1/2 between 11 and 5. And colored in one of those 2 pieces. You could have shown 1/2 between 3 and 9 and colored in one of those 2 pieces. You could have done something a little bit cheekier, and you could have colored in between 12 and 3 and between 6 and 9. That would be 1/2, wouldn't it? A 6th way that you could have colored that in might show up. You could do every other section of 5 minutes. So you'd say 5, 10, 15. Leave that blank, and here's 20. Leave that blank. Here's 25. Leave that blank. Uh-oh, I missed one. Oh, I should have done one right here. Well, what I could do is I could just do these 2 right together. So the orange would be 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes. I would prefer if you had kept them together like this, but can you make 1/2 of the clock by coloring in 2 quarter hours? Absolutely. That's adding fractions, which is where we're headed. Showing 1/2 on the number line in 5 places. So we had said there were 8 total. So anytime I had 4 of the 8 slices, I will have 1/2. So here was 1/2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right here is another 1/2. 1, 2, 3, 4. There is another 1/2. I had already designated this as 1/2. And I needed a 5th place, so now I'm going to use a different color so that they don't get mixed up, and I'm going to go on top of the line and say, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right there is my 5th section of 1/2. Other numbers in fractions that show amounts still equal to 1/2. So we said 30 out of 60 minutes in the clock showed 1/2. In our number line, 4 out of 8 sections showed 1/2. If we went down here and used the fraction strips, that's what these are called, I could say 3 out of 6. I could say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I will use 3 out of 6. it makes sense to go right straight over here quickly and say, all right, y has to be 1/2 of x. So 4 is half of 8. 3 is half of 6. I could say 5 is half of 10. I could say 6 is half of 12. Looking at the fraction strips again. It does not matter what numbers you used. A way you can double check yourself to make sure your y is half of your x. When you multiply this number in your y column times 2, it should equal x. That's one way that you can prove a number is half the size of the other number. You multiply your given number times 2, and it will come out to be half the size of the other number. You could flip that around and say, I'm going to divide my x numbers, divide them by 2, which will give me my y numbers. Remember, fractions are showing a relationship, top number divided by bottom number. So multiplying and dividing can help you to understand fractions better. The directions I gave you for the fraction strips were to color so that you can show 1/2 in 5 places. So I could have shown 2/4 equal to the 1/2. I could have shown 3/6 equal to the 1/2. I could have shown 6/12 equal to the 1/2. And this is why I asked for 5 places. I wanted to see how creative you could get. To me, it might be making the most sense if I said, oh, wait a minute. There's another half. There's 2/4. That shows 1/2. I could have shown 3/6 over here. I could have shown 1/12, 2/12, 3/12, 4/12, 5/12, 6/12, every other one like I was trying to do with the clock. Lots of different varieties where you could have colored to show 1/2 in all those different ways. Now if we go up to the top here, I had suggested a little bit of a trick. What if you had a Twix and needed to show half of your Twix? Well, right here, this is 1/2 of my Twix. Because Twixes have those 2 sections, 1 out of 2 sections is still half. I could have shown a pizza with 4 slices and shown that 2 out of the 4 slices are half of the pizza. You might notice I'm putting a little more of an explanation than you probably did. If you look back at yours and realize, oh, I haven't quite explained how it shows half, add a bit of an explanation. This one up here, explain what 1/2 means with one complete sentence without giving examples. Again, there are a number of different ways you could have shown it. What it means is I have an amount divided into 2 sections. Only one of the 2 sections is being used. So you need the idea of I have 2 total, and one of those 2 is the part that I am talking about. No, you are not sending this to me. You are still keeping this in your folder. This, though, is good preparation for page 615 in your math book, which is what we need to do next. 615. So you are going to have to pause this a bit. I want to talk to you about a few of them, and then I will have you pause and do the rest, and then you will resume and check yourself to see if you got it right. A couple of ways you can think about this. One of these ways, you don't have these little fraction strips because, unfortunately, we don't have enough at school that I can send them home for you. However, I can show them to you. You'll notice there are a lot of markings on them, and I am turning it so that you can only see the markings that are the fractions. So in order to think about this first one, we need the eighths strips. And we want to think about, is eighth 1/8, so I just need one of those 8 pieces. Is one of those eighths closer to a half? Is it closer to a whole? Or is it closer to nothing? If you look at this, you should see pretty quickly it's not very close to a whole thing. 1/8 is definitely closer to a half. But now if we get the math involved, how many eighths would you have if you have 0? Well, you would have 0 eighths if you have nothing. How many eighths would you have if you have the whole thing? You would have 8 eighths. How many eighths would it take to equal 1/2? So this shows it a little bit differently, but we were working with 1/2. You should be able to see, well, if there's 8 pieces in the whole thing, half of those would be the 4 eighths. So 4 eighths would be my half. Where is 1/8 closer to? It's not very close to 4 eighths. It's way far away from 8 eighths. Definitely closer to 0. What about 5/9? This one gets a little bit trickier. No, I don't have ninths. I have tenths and I have eighths, but I don't have where I have something split into 9 equal pieces. So I'll have to think of it similarly. If it's close to 0, that would mean I have 0 out of 9 pieces. Well, no, I've got 5 out of 9, so that's not too bad. The whole thing would mean I have all 9 of the 9 pieces. That's pretty close. What is half of 9? If I take 9 and divide it by 2, right, that'll tell me exactly halfway in between. 2 times 4 is 8. Oops, gonna need a decimal. 4.5 is exactly halfway between 0 and 9. Wasn't 5 awfully close to 4.5? So half of 9 would be 4.5 out of 9. 5/9 is really close to half. You will find anytime the denominators are odd, it gets a good bit trickier. But we already know how to deal with dividing into 2 equal sections. We just put the decimal, bring it up, and then you can compare from there. 7/8. Hopefully you see very quickly that 7/8 is not very close to 0 eighths. A whole amount would mean I have all 8 pieces. Half of the eighths. Well, 8 divided into 2 sections, there must be 4 in each section. So 7/8 is definitely going to be closer to 1 whole thing. Now I want you to pause. I don't have my little sticky note. So just pause and do the remainder of this page. Do all of these, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And when you are done, resume, and I will keep on going. Here we go. 3/7. 0 out of 7, 7 out of 7, and half of 7 is 3.5 out of 7. 3 is very close to that, so this is close to 1/2. 5 out of 11. Well, 0 out of 11 is 0. 11 elevenths is the whole thing. Half of it is 5.5. This is awfully close to 1/2. 4 out of 5. 0 out of 5. 5 out of 5. I don't even have to figure out 5. 4/5 is real close to 1 whole thing. 1 out of 9 pieces. Well, 0 out of 9 pieces, 9 out of 9 pieces, or we've already figured out half of 9. 4.5 out of 9. 1 out of 9 is definitely closest to nothing. 6 out of 7. That's almost all 7 pieces. That would be the whole thing. 2 out of 5. This is a little trickier, right? Because we're not just at 1 piece out of 5. We're not almost all the way to 5 out of 5. So half of 5 is 2.5. This is closest to 1/2. 3 out of 8. Well, 0 out of 8 is nothing. 8 out of 8 pieces is a whole thing. 4 out of 8 is half. This is very close to 1/2. If I have 1 out of 5 pieces, well, I already know to be halfway out of 5, I would need 2.5. I only have 1. This is closer to 0. 15 out of 16. That is nearly at all 16 pieces. So this is closest to 1. Now, the directions that are linked up in Google Classroom tell you that you need to go ahead and do a sheet which shows you different amounts of fractions. And so you have to first figure out the fraction and then decide if it's closer to half, whole, or 0. So make sure that you watch that video before you do that part of the assignment. Neither of these are homework today. Homework today is to go back and fix anything that I have told you that you did incorrectly on your chapter, or not your chapter, on your skills review. I will show you really quickly here on the skills review. When you add or subtract decimals, you must remember subtracting, you have to keep it in the same order. So the 20 must go on top. Where's the decimal in a whole number? Right there. When you add or subtract decimals, you must line them up. So the 4 goes here, the 6, 3, 7 goes here, and you must have these placeholders, which means 0 take away 7. You can't do it. You're going to have to do an entire line of borrowing all the way back from the 2, which becomes a 1. This is 10. It doesn't help us, so this becomes 9. There's 10. Doesn't help us take 7 away from nothing, so it also becomes a 9. This becomes 10. 10 minus 3 we can't do, but that doesn't help us take away from 7, so that becomes 9. 10 minus 7 we can do. 9 minus 3 we can do. 9 minus 6 we can do. 9 minus 4 we can do. Don't forget to bring the decimal down. 1 minus nothing we can do. So your final answer here will have a decimal, 3 places to the right of the decimal, 2 places to the left. Again, line up your decimals, 1, 0, 3, and 5/10. Take away 12 hundredths, 4 whole things, this 0. Now you're going to have to borrow. You don't have to go nearly as far. You just borrow from this 5 and bring it one place over. 8 tenths plus 1 and 45 hundredths. The 8 tenths can go on top, 1 and 45 hundredths on bottom. Placeholders, but this time I'm adding. So those are the things that are the most tricky. The other thing with number 7, 0 and 2 tenths is the divisor. 0, 0, 1, 8, 5 is the dividend. Must move the decimal one place and come straight up. So I don't have to start dividing until I get to the right of the decimal. Does 2 times anything equal 1? No, I must show the 10th place has nothing. Subtract, bring down the 1. Now I have the 8. Now I can fill in the hundredths, and then I'll bring down and fill in the thousandths. And remember, I did say you will need a 0 as well to get this at an ending. You may not have a remainder dividing with decimals. If you missed anything here in the middle, you're going to have to figure it out for yourself. I'm not helping you out with that today. Do be more careful with it. Look back perhaps at some of the multiplying with decimals videos that we did in the last couple of weeks.